Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
Yeah, I'm Fiorella.
And Oz, with his overalls and his nice, beautiful Combo Couch hat, is on the ones and twos, fam. It's Manic Monday. What can we say, fam? What do you got over there? What's going on?
Nothing. So much is going on, Pasta. So much is going on. I
It's
wouldn't even know
nuts.
where to begin.
Fam, I don't know if I've told you this yet, but I'm a newspaper guy now. I get the newspaper delivered to me. It is called what the hell is this paper called? It's a
I
local
get it
paper.
delivered to me, and I'm such a newspaper guy that I don't know what it's called.
It's
Sure,
the
fam.
Las Vegas Review Journal, and it's kind of interesting because their first section, which has all the world news, is all articles from the AP. Just literally AP article after AP article after AP article.
So it's the AP.
Associated Press,
Yeah, so it's the AP.
pretty much the world. It's I haven't seen one journalist or writer for the Review Journal, the Las Vegas Review Journal yet. And I'm telling you, fam, when you read this stuff and you just go Google the titles, they're on all the papers, all the channels. It's like everybody's on the same email chain, fam, and it's just one big financial scam to get more money and more money and more money. I mean, US lawmakers traveled to Poland. Their solution: Ukrainians need more weapons and equipment. Mitch McConnell blasts Biden for not doing enough for Ukraine. It's one thing after the other, fam, and they're just giving away billions and billions and billions. And we'll eventually one day reach trillions with all the wars we support. Biden's supposed to come out with his budget in the next week, and there's supposed to be slotted money for guess who? Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is nothing new. This is the status quo warmongering like playbook. The problem is I think people realize it now after Iraq, after Afghanistan. And so now it's just too obvious and they're not really able to get away with it. I think in spite of all the censorship, in spite of everything they're doing, I think a lot of people are getting pissed off because now it's going to affect their pocket, as we are seeing. I think Tara Reid put up a really great tweet the other day how, there are certain places where gas prices are nearing $9. Food is nearing like ridiculous prices. And a lot of economists have been saying there's going to be a recession, the dollar's going to go down. And what we're seeing also geopolitically in terms of the yuan and its many countries recognizing it, I think that is signaling to the end of the era where the United States and NATO and the West were able to unilaterally dictate the policies that and essentially the economy and move and manipulate everything around what was most beneficial to them. The East is on the rise in terms of China, in terms of markets there, which is some of the things we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I mean, it's unnerving, but I think it's nothing new, and I think it's just more obvious for us now with the internet and with social media and everything else.
Yeah, and I think everything you just pointed out there is really it's important to point out to the people that the people who are in charge, they don't care. They're going to walk us right off a cliff, right? They're not going to stop until we say no. Giving money to other countries for war and these proxy wars and everything they do. Also, there's stuff for the boop boop fam that is also on the line there. So they're going to continue to do this and put us in the worst position. We, the people, are the ones who are going to survive if the economy crashes at the end of the day. Not the elites, not the 1%. They'll be fine. It's us. So we really need to, shine a light on this, continue to shine a light on this, and push for the people to push back. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Do we want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let me just acknowledge really quick that Trey Wright was the first one to come in today. He says hello, and Frederick Murphy left a Super 8 contribution. Thank you so much, Frederick Murphy. It really is appreciated. Go ahead, Fee, get the ball rolling.
Okay, so there is a little bit of disturbance in the force with the prices of oil. As I said, of course, people are feeling it every day at the gas pump, but in general, in terms of the economic aspect of it, geopolitically, there is a sort of trickle-down effect, and I don't mean to use that lightly. The truckers who have to fill up their gas tanks are feeling the heat. And I mentioned this would happen a few weeks ago, where I think one trucker said it cost him like hundreds of dollars to fill his gas tank. And if this continues, they're not going to be able to deliver the goods to the people, because the truck drivers are the essential piece that is part of the economy when you're talking about transporting goods and services and transporting so many products that people need. Of course, we know that they were protesting during and still continue to be protesting because of vaccine mandates that haven't, in some cases, ended for a lot of these people, in spite of the government loosening the restrictions, and in spite of so many companies kind of easing back. There are certain companies that are still pushing ahead with it, and we've seen the truckers and how they're ready to protest on that in that case. Now you add, of course, the high cost of fuel prices, which is something that's happening throughout, especially the West. As we said, the West, Germany, Italy, are the places where we're going to be most affected by this, because Russia, of course, was a very essential provider of this for them, and they are going to be directly extremely impacted. So what we're seeing now is that there is a trucker convoy that descended into Brescia, Italy, in protest over high fuel prices that have continued to soar since, of course, the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So there's a video. Let's just play it.
Is there any volume on the video?
No. So, since there's just honking odds, I'm just gonna talk through it. You guys can see right now that this is happening. This happened, I think, this a few days ago, and I think it's important to note this specifically. Of course, it's not the first time we've seen truckers protest. However, in this part of the world, right now, the protesting is largely because of economics, right? Because again, it costs them a lot of money to fill up their gas tank now, and that is going to have a domino effect on everything else. The next one, Oz, I'm just going to go ahead and pause, and then I'll get your opinion on this. So these trucks are protesting against high fuel costs in Germany. So now we go from Italy to Germany, and Germany, of course, like I said, it is one of the biggest, was one of the biggest oil purchasers of the Russian gas. And so now with this, we knew that this was going to affect the population, but especially Germany above all other countries in the EU. I think this is just a signal of what's to come. So as you guys can see, it's just a bunch of more convoys. Pasta, what is this? What do you think about all this right now? This is just the beginning, of course, that we're seeing of the protests against the high oil prices.
Well, it's kind of interesting that, North America was ahead of Europe for a change when it came to the truckers, right? I think they're taking a cue from what they saw over in Canada and what they saw in the States. And I think it's great. And I still think it's the blueprint, fam, because my sources tell me that the ruling class doesn't have enough of the natural resources. They still haven't mined the bottom of the ocean enough yet, or got enough of other natural resources in the Congo or wherever they're trying to go, in Peru, your hometown. So the fact is, the truckers can still continue to shut things down. I think that's one of the most valuable weapons that we have out here. Of course, I'm sure it's going to be they're going to be accusing these truckers, fams, of being racist or right-wing extremists, just like they were here in the States and stuff. But I think this is still the blueprint. You know what I'm saying? I got to give credit where credit is due. Teodoro said, could you imagine if they just turned off their trucks in the middle of the highway and shut stuff down? This is seizing the means of production, is it not, fam? This is shutting shit down. So, there was supposed to be another convoy that was going to go off from in America, but it's not. I think they kind of put it on pause because people are kind of sleeping, thinking that this whole rhetoric, these whole protocols are going away. But I think that some of us over here, and I don't know about yourself, fam, but we're kind of predicting that it might come back the way they're acting because nothing was ever ended. It was only suspended. So this can be a valuable weapon if we can learn from this. If we can use this again, shut it down. Use the truckers.
Right. And I think these people are just reacting. I think the anti-mandate protest from the truckers was more of like shutting it down. I think these people are more like, here's like a warning. Because if we can't afford our gas, you guys aren't going to get your goods and services. It's that simple. Like if we can't afford to transport this, and if you're going to continue this sanctioning that's actually hurting us, not Vladimir Putin, right? Because even if they wanted to hurt Vladimir Putin, Russia is actually it's hurting. It was hurting for a little bit, and it's going to continue to hurt for a little bit. But like we said from the start, it's going to bounce back, and in the long run, Russia has many options. People in the West do not, and that is what is happening here. And so while these predator oligarchs are playing these little war games, trying to make a lot of money, like you just said in the beginning, these people are directly impacted. So once things start impacting the pockets of everyday people, then that's when things start, I think, shifting. And what we're seeing is maybe a signal of what's to come in terms of how bad this thing will get, right?
Yeah.
Another thing in terms of the hypocrisy of all of this with the sanctions placed by the US and the European Union, and of course these NATO countries on Russia, is the way that a lot of these countries have not only been silenced, but have also backed other sanctions to countries in Syria, to countries like Iran, countries that have, of course, been seen as having these brutal, evil dictators. But in terms of invasions and in terms of everything else, the United States, of course, has never taken accountability for all of their coups, invasions, etc. So here are some Serbians kind of showing this very thing where they're sort of protesting and calling out the hypocrisy of the US during a soccer game. And it was the soccer club Red Star Belgrade, and they held banners bearing the names of the countries invaded by the United States. And they were saying, all we are saying is give peace a chance. And they were reciting some of the countries. And you can just play the video. So sorry for the audio there, everyone, but I just wanted to show that they were kind of calling it out. And Serbia, of course, has refused, as a country, has refused to join NATO, by the way, because they said they can't forget what NATO did to them. And that's I think, a very poignant thing as far as, what's going on. But I also wanted to mention a brief synopsis of what's been happening the last few days. I've been following a lot of the Ministry of Defense in Russia and what they've been reporting directly. So directly from the source of that, a lot of things happened. One of the main things that happened was that India is buying discounted oil from Russia. So India is a country that, has been criticized largely because of Modi and his policies. However, India is a country that's notoriously been independent in their decisions. And of course, they decided to buy this rupee to ruble. And it was pretty awesome. And it's pretty telling that that's happening. Also, Saudi Arabia is considering the yuan over the US dollar, which would be a major thing. And of course, Saudi Arabia is the country that we are continually giving weapons to, and that it's continuously using those weapons to exert domination over and complete total brutal force over the Yemeni people, who we don't really help, and we don't have people wearing, or Yemeni flags on their profile pictures, and a lot of people have pointed out that hypocrisy. But they're considering the yuan over the US dollar. Is it about loyalty? No, it's about money. It's about economics. They're looking at where this is going. They're looking at what time it is. China, of course, is a major influence now, as we have said, and of course, they are all playing a large part in all of this. Venezuela is standing by Russia in terms of politically. They have said that NATO and the West are to blame for failing to follow the accords they had made, for failing to stop their eastward expansion. And they are in a position to demand certain things from the United States. And of course, we know that the United States went in to try to find some sort of deal with them. And by doing so, they recognized Nicolas Maduro and completely made Juan Guaido irrelevant, as he always has legitimately been. And of course, Russia, as all reports from the Ministry of Defense, from Gonzalo Lira, who we had on a couple days ago, from anybody that's on the ground.
Douglas McGregor even said, fam, same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Colonel McGregor said the same thing, that Russia is close to defeating the Ukrainian army. And as of today, I was reading, they've captured several key ports and key areas that they needed to capture. And so it should be a matter of time. Now, obviously, the West is continuing to send weapons and in that form aid Ukraine, but this is not a fight they're going to win realistically. Now, in terms of Russia, right, in terms of Russia suffering by the Western corporations leaving its country, that was also kind of a failure, because McDonald's closed 847 restaurants in Russia and left. And then the Russians turned the McDonald's logo 90 degrees and named the new stores Uncle Vanya. What's Uncle Vanya? Uncle Vanya is a very popular play slash, piece of literature where it just shows like a lot of the Russian culture, and it's one of my favorites, and it's just hilarious that they named it that, because it's like such a pivotal piece of literature. And this assortment will remain the same in all stores, and the prices will be lower because only Russian ingredients will be used.
This is great.
It's so amazing. I'm just laughing.
Right. Didn't I think it was Vanessa Beeley said, fam, last time that we tried to sanction the hell out of Russia, they actually, picked themselves up by their bootstraps, came out with new products, new dairy products, new cheeses, all that stuff to really help themselves. This is them doing more of the same over here. They should just copy off McDonald's now and do their own Russian, the McVodka.
And they'll probably sell vodka at McDonald's, which would make it all that much better. But I just wanted to say this is like very reminiscent as to what has happened in Cuba, Iran, in Venezuela, and especially Nicaragua, because we know, having gone to Nicaragua, that in Nicaragua, there is a self-sufficiency when it comes to food, because they have prepared themselves to really invest in agriculture and bring back that agriculture and become, of course, self-sufficient, meaning that the vast majority of the food, 90% above, is made in the side of the country. So they don't have to rely on imports. Unlike us, the United States, we rely on imports heavily, which is, of course, now turning into a really big problem for us. Russia is doing the same thing. They've been preparing for this for a while, and it's really great to see that in terms of like kind of like a dig at NATO, but also it just shows you that what the United States and NATO were trying to do, what the West is trying to do by like, sanctioning Russia, by forcing them to act economically, isn't going their way. It's not going their way.
It's not going to work. In other words, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Even the fact that it is an act of war and only the poor people and whatever middle class is left is the ones who suffer, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. So at this point, it's nothing more than virtue signaling.
Yeah, it's nothing more than that. And unfortunately, it is hurting us. It's hurting the working people of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's up to the working people of the United States to really start saying something, because that is something that they're going to obviously use and politicize for this next election and the midterms, of course. And the thing is that in terms of the failure of this whole thing for the West, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense admitted that the armed forces of Ukraine lost control over the coast of the Sea of Azov. And so that means that they lost access to it, and it's a very important access point. And so according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the Lugansk People's Republic now controls more than 90% of its territory. So in terms of denazification, Russia is achieving its goal. In terms of gaining control of certain key regions and getting the people back into control of these regions instead of the Banderite fascists, that is happening as well. And so Ukraine is losing this war, and of course by proxy the West is also losing this war, right? And so the Russian Ministry of Defense has also said that Ukraine has until the early hours of March 21st, which was or today, maybe a little bit later, to give Russia its answer on surrendering Mariupol. And they've also said that the destruction of foreign mercenaries who have arrived in Ukraine will continue. So they have been, according to all accounts from the region, they have been forgiving of Ukrainians because they see Ukrainians as like their own people. Like they see like, oh, Ukrainians, like, well, we'll forgive them. We'll like put them aside. In terms of the mercenaries that are from other countries, they have zero problem, and they said as much, eliminating them. And that is something that they do because they feel it's unfair that NATO is calling all these people to come in and fight. And so what's been happening is that a lot of these people that are coming in and fighting are leaving in droves. They're gone. And so we've seen countless, of course, videos of that happening as well. So it doesn't look very good for Ukraine right now, fam, but you will hear the complete and total opposite in mainstream media. It is a cartoon world, how they twist everything and turn it into a complete fantasy that's non-existent.
We, mentioned this before the show, right? Like I was sitting here just shaking my head, looking at this newspaper, looking at the Associated Press, saying what a just money grab this is, what a scam this is, and stuff like that. And yes, the mainstream media, along with our elected officials, our lawmakers and whatnot, will sell this story, fam, that the Ukrainians are fighting hard and taking on the big Russian bear. And, the McConnell thing, he even says, and look at this, McConnell said, he goes, President Biden must understand that the Ukrainians can win this war. And since he can win this war, we got to help them. And once he believes that they can win this war, then he'll support them. That was my Mitch McConnell. I have to work on it. I, try to get a little bit more in the throat there with that chicken neck he has. But I mean, seriously, you want to give them more money? Does anybody in their right mind really believe that Ukraine can defeat Russia in their backyard on their border? I mean, it's absurd. Russian air fighters can fire targets in Ukraine from their own airspace, fam. They control the Black Sea. They're launching Tomahawk-style missiles out from nowhere. They're surrounding every single one of these forces. The Ukrainian forces have no chance whatsoever. But you would never believe that if you looked at the mainstream media, and it's all about money.
And absolutely correct. It is all about money. And here's a situation where people are getting really smart and seeing where this shift is happening, right? This economic shift that we're seeing before us. Well, fam, longtime rivals and arch nemesis, India and Pakistan, that rarely ever show support for each other, right? But Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan praised the country's policy on oil imports because, of course, like I said, India is doing really great business with Russia. And Khan said that India has always maintained an independent foreign policy, which is true, and that India's foreign policy is for its people. And so I'm
Wow.
reminded of Ro Khanna's little outburst, right? And Anya's like retort. And she said, I'm happy that India is an independent sovereign nation. And this is exactly a depiction of that. India is doing business with Russia because it sees what's happening. And Pakistan is saying, good for you. Because guess what? The West have used, include, of course, you can go back to the British Empire, but the West has continuously used these nations in the global South and exploited them.
Yeah.
And they're seeing other opportunities, and they're saying, you know what? Let me look here. Let me look to Russia. Let me look to China. The world is changing, and they're pretty much seeing the world change. And they're like, let me hop on this train before it's a little late. And I think this is a smart route to go if you're looking at it from an economic perspective. And it's interesting to me. And I think this is a really, really big deal. Pasta, as you know, these countries have long time been rivals. So
Yeah.
what does
Modi
this
won't
say?
even sit down and meet with Imran Khan. Let's put it that way. They have never talked, sat down. They might have talked back channels, whatnot. But what I understand, unless I'm wrong, unless something has changed, these people won't even, they wouldn't even meet. I think they were at like one event together or something, but they won't even talk to each other. Like I think Modi refuses to meet with Imran Khan. So for him to say this here, fam, we can say sometimes we don't know if what we're seeing is, WEF theater being played out in front of us. But if it's not, and this is really all about geopolitics and foreign policy, it only would be a matter of time for countries like Pakistan to go, you know what, United States, you've pulled our chains for so long. You know what I'm saying? We're done playing with you anymore. We're done. All these countries you can see, like, eventually when things come to fruition in Ukraine, they would probably turn around the people and say, don't ever get fooled by the wolf or the fox or whoever the United States is, whatever they are, they're evil, they don't play right, and we don't need them anymore. Especially if there's another
Yeah,
big brother in town, like the big China working with Russia. I mean, Russia and Putin and Modi have had this relationship. For the United States to really think and the progressive choice for president, Ro Khanna, to get all snippy with India, thinking that India was going to just straighten up and say, "Oh, let me listen to the West again." Please, it's not going to happen. They said, "Screw you. We're not recognizing your sanctions. In fact, we're going to double down and do more business with Russia." And
exactly.
that's what's happening.
You said something key there, Pasta. They don't need them anymore. That's it.
Exactly.
That's the key here. They don't need the United States anymore. But this is not World War II. This is, the climate has shifted, the economics have shifted, and so now they have the upper hand. And the United States and the West have overextended their hand. They still think that they thought that they could go in and dictate everything. Now, in terms of the WEF, I think a lot of people think of that very simplistically. Like it's not just going to happen where everybody agrees that all these global oligarchs agree that, oh, they're just going to crush all the little people. There's going to be disagreements, and I think part of what we're seeing is the disagreements and the factions that are going to break up. It's not going to be that easy for
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab to just unilaterally convene all of these billionaires and that they're all going to agree. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback. And I think that there are people that are sort of like not going to be okay with being part of a globalist sort of agenda, because there are a lot of countries that are very proud of their independence and their sovereignty. And what we're going to be seeing is a lot of those countries are going to be pushing back against that agenda, either overtly or not as overtly. And so yeah, I think that's going to come into play a lot in
Yeah.
terms of that sort of thing.
The thing that's really eye-opening, I think, for the American people, and where they should keep, really just wake up and smell the coffee, is the fact that their government is not representing who we are as citizens. You know what I'm saying? Instead of doubling down on the regime change model and the military model and having more bases all over the globe and whatnot, and starting these proxy wars and getting in the middle of them for certain entities like the military industrial complex to make a dollar. I mean, if they're really representing us, we would probably want diplomacy. A lot of people would want diplomacy. I know there's a lot of people, fam, who are very reactionary, whatnot. And I talk about, what happened in Iraq, the way a lot of our citizens were duped and said, yeah, we got to go over there and take care of a guy who's like the, Middle Eastern Hitler and Saddam Hussein and stuff. But for the majority of, I think, the people in this country, we don't want to send our children off to die in these wars, to come home and kill themselves with PTSD. We want to negotiate. We want to use the best of America, and we're not doing it. We're just sticking our chest out and thinking we can just keep on beating it and doing whatever, and the world's going to listen to us. No, we're failing. And, at the end of the day, it's the American people who are going to be left out in the cold unless we do something about it and get these leaders of ours in control. You know what I'm saying? All of them,
Yeah,
or get rid of them. Either way.
agreed.
Super Rays or Super Ray, as I was
Yeah.
told this morning. 77 people watching on the Rockfin, guys. That is amazing. Awesome. 286 on the YouTubes. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it on out. Hunter C, thank you so much. It is very much appreciated, the Super Ray contribution, fam. Let's waste no time and dive right into it, because this is going to be a real fun section.
It's so weird that you're just not yelling. Like, it's crazy. That means
Fam.
somebody really whipped you.
No, it's the new me, a new studio. I'm going to be more controlled. Morgan Freeman told me in a dream, said, Pasta, you don't have to yell so loud anymore. When you're in
Thanks
control
God.
and you're concise, that's when people will listen to you.
Thanks God for Morgan Freeman. I'm
Morgan
telling you.
Freeman.
He's the voice
Well,
of God.
I saw it in a meme, actually. So, but I'm saying, and then
I know.
I slept on it, and
Fam, I know everybody says that Morgan Freeman came to them in a dream because he's the voice of God. So okay, so this part really, like, it's just, I went crazy because this is hilarious. The whole time the United States, the West, have for decades made Russia to be the boogeyman, of course. And now, since Putin's been in power, Putin is the new Hitler. He's trying to take over Ukraine, make it the Sudetenland. He's going to take over all of Europe. He's going to take over the world. He is a dictator. He is, putting people in jail, doing all these things. Zelensky has been accused by his own people of putting journalists in jail, of allowing these band-right fascists to give tickets to people for speaking Russian, allowing them to commit disgusting crimes on innocent civilians, literally for speaking the wrong thing, for sounding Russian, for whatever they will invent. And we're going to show you some of these videos, but he's allowed these people to take over, right? And he's also become a dictator of himself, banning oppositional parties and banning, of course, Russian media. And he still has the time and the audacity to allow the neo-Nazi parties to exist, in spite of banning a lot of, and this is for the skinny jean left, the synthetic left, a lot of the leftists, a lot of the communists, a lot of the the parties that are oppositional to this agenda that he has. And so this is from the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. Zelensky suspended activities of 11 opposition parties for, quote, ties to Russia. He also signed a decree combining national TV channels into one platform, how 1984 is at, citing the importance of a unified information policy. Who decides that? Under martial law. I mean, this, if Putin did this, imagine the outcry. They would try to drone him. They would say, we need his head. They would say they needed to kill him. They already say that. So imagine, like, what would happen if Putin did this.
Yeah, it would be, forget about it. The media would be going nuts. I mean, I don't think it's possible that you can make Putin worse of a person the way the mainstream media has made him. And Sean Hannity is now called for the assassination of Vladimir Putin. But I mean, if it did happen, fam, I'd be interested to see how the mainstream media would kind of display Putin, because this is just ridiculous. And the fact is, I don't understand how Americans can continue to fall and put the Ukraine flag in their bio and all this BS when they see stuff like this. I mean, this is like in your face right now. disassembling of people's parties, representatives, and other people who think differently. And like you said, fam, the Nazi parties ain't going away. Oh no, no, no! But the progressive parties, the liberal parties, and all these other parties, bye bye, and nobody says anything about it. You won't find this clip on the mainstream media.
In fact, Pasta, one of the parties he banned actually condemned Putin's invasion. So he's not just they're banning like a lot of people, even people who told the same narrative essentially. So this is from Axios. They kind of talk a little bit about the politicians and what Zelensky was doing. They say any activity of politicians aimed at splitting or collaborating will not succeed, Zelensky said. So of course, this is in his little telegram that he gave out. He basically said that the reason he was doing this is because he wants to stop the sort of collaboration between these oppositional factions. The National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, of course, decided to ban these parties for life. The Shari Party, Nashi, Opposition Bloc, Left Opposition, Union of Left Forces, State Progressive, Socialist Party of Ukraine, Socialist Party of Ukraine, Socialist Party, and Vladimir Saldo Bloc, Zelensky said. So those are all the parties that they decided to ban. And I wanted to go back to January, which wasn't that long ago, like a couple months ago, where this was already happening. A lot of people have said that he has been doing this, like we mentioned, jailing journalists, silencing any sort of dissent. And this is directly from the Kiev Independent that has been pushing a lot of actual misinformation, that's been pushing a lot of, pro
propaganda and bullshit.
Yeah, propaganda bullshit, anti-Russian bullshit. And so they even wrote an article, how Zelensky's administration moves to dismantle press freedom in Ukraine. And this is, when they talk about when he became the quote servant of the people, when that was his, his party, and he got into power in 2019, he said, his office said that it doesn't need journalists. So they ran on this. We don't need journalists. Can you imagine? I mean, this is, for people
being
who are
honest about it, fam. We don't need journalists. We got propagandists. Please get rid of the journalists.
At least they're honest about it, right? Like in the United States, they say they support freedom and and the First Amendment and all of that, while having, of course, Julian Assange, Mumia, and other journalists and whistleblowers and activists in jail right now for exposing these war crimes. So at least they're honest blatantly, right, about this whole thing. So they mentioned that for the past 4 months at that time, they saw a surge of attempts to control the media, that it included pressure on publication owners, demands to political talk shows, attempts to cancel the screening of documentary films, and threats of criminal prosecution against media outlets and journalists. There was a bill threatening media independence that was also registered during Zelensky's tenure, and it was awaiting review by Parliament. So the government wants to expand funding for tame state media to amplify its message. So this was happening a while ago, and the Kiev Independent wrote about it and recognized it. So it's kind of interesting that now suddenly, Zelensky is a hero worthy of being emulated in some sort of cartoon caricature of a Marvel figure, and also, of course, nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, which is, of course, right in line with the people who are nominated for those. But they also talked about how they saw the displeasure of the government towards the media that isn't under direct control, that they saw a trend of government attacks on the rights of journalists, that journalists are controlled by bad people and oligarchs. So they mentioned this, and they asked why now. We're approaching the parliamentary elections and then the presidential elections, and this government believes that it lacks the resources to win. Both the oligarchs and the free press criticize it, and the Zelensky's office never responded to this, but this is part of it. And they also talked about how Ukraine's media landscape is supposed to be competitive, and there are a significant number of independent outlets that exist. Many publications, especially TV channels, are owned by oligarchs. These media tend to push the narratives of their owners. Most Ukrainians get their news from TV. The past few years have seen a professionalization of Ukraine's journalists, corporations, and media business models, said Andrei Ianitsky, an economic journalist who teaches his craft at the Kiev School of Economics. So again, this is very similar to what we see in the United States in terms of the press only representing their oligarchs.
Yeah,
100%, right? But they're saying it out there.
Were you
They're
reading
honest.
about America, or were you reading about Ukraine over there? Hey, oligarchs running things, and that's how they get the media and stuff. I mean, it's very much the same, and they got their own. I think they took the model from the United States and just and used it in Ukraine. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's hilarious too, because it's like, well, hey, like you said, is this America or is this Ukraine? Ukraine is, by all accounts, one of the most corrupt places in the world, especially in Europe. And so, it's no surprise that the United States and NATO align themselves with a country so representative of the same type of domestic and foreign policy that they espouse. And this is straight from the word of the Kiev Independent, supposedly the journalist outlet that actually tells the truth, right, when it comes to this conflict. So it's funny. And then, of course, the other thing that I kind of mentioned already is that he used martial law to sign a decree to combine all national TV channels into one platform. So this is, of course, from Reuters. And of course, they say President Volodymyr Zelensky has signed a decree that combines all national TV channels into one platform, citing the importance of a unified information policy under martial law, his office said in a statement on Sunday. Ukrainian privately owned media channels have hereafter continued to operate since the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24th. The decree announcement made on the presidential website did not specify how quickly the measure would come into force, but it's coming. And Zelensky is pretty much, I mean, if you want to describe a totalitarian dictator, that is essentially it. You're gonna make it one message, one entire channel, no oppositional parties.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't the neoconservatives always complain, fam, about that? Don't they always say we need this? It's centralized power. We want choices. We want, we don't want one control. We don't want one channel and stuff. And you're supporting this stuff. The conservatives are supporting this war and shit when this guy is consolidating all the media into one. I mean, come on, this is mind-boggling that you can even say that, talk about Vladimir Putin. Look what Zelensky's doing right here. Everything that you're scared and you're fearful of when it comes to socialism or communism that you always cry about is happening, and you're supporting it. Wake up, people.
They're entirely hypocritical at this point. And both the neocons, obviously, and the neoliberals, right? Because the neoliberals are like, oh, we love freedom, or we love free speech, we love people having rights, etc. And the neocons are oh yeah, anti-censorship, yeah, we need choices, like you just said. So they're both hypocrites because it's America first, right? But it's not America first. This is hurting the working people of the United States. They, it's that sort of process where they think America can do no wrong. On the right, and on the left, it's that process of, oh, America has the responsibility to teach the world that to be better.
I have a question. I'm very curious, fam. You got to tell me. And I refer to the tweet you made that it took one election cycle for all these Democrats to sheep herd you back into the party and stuff like that. But are you not surprised, being that we've already went through the situation in Iraq, that the shit libs have caught up and maybe even surpassed some of the neocons when it comes to foreign policy and war? I mean, are you a little surprised? I mean, I got to be honest with you that I am a little surprised that they are this pro-war.
I don't know if I'm surprised, because this has been programming that's made to be that way. I don't think they're caught up. I think this is the new sort of political lines that we're seeing, the new formation, because of the way people have been brainwashed and propagandized. I think it's like, okay, so now you have the left that has become little fascists in terms of foreign policy, and in terms of course, the COVID pandemic and all of that. That was all like, they were all like leading up until this moment. So now they're in agreement and in alignment when it comes to this. And that's exactly what the establishment in the State Department and the intelligence community in the United States want, because they want anybody opposing that to seem like a fringe group. And so they use some of the people that are on the right, but that are still saying, calling this out, right? That have maybe more conservative social viewpoints, but that are like, wait a minute, we need to stop intervening in this situation. You know, the United States needs to back off. This is wrong. And the left, what's left of the left, right? And everybody else that's like, yeah, like this is bad. We're not pro NATO. NATO is a tool of the defense industry. It's a tool of the intelligence agencies. It's just this is bad. Like this is going to cause hurt on us. We need to stop our interventionist policy. So those two groups have essentially agreed upon this, and a lot on the vaccine mandate situation. But because some of those people are on the populist or on the you know, like the anti-establishment right or whatever, they can then say, oh, you people are with them, so you are these extremists, you are these fringe groups, you are this and that. And so when you see the shit libs talk about whether it's us or whether it's somebody that's on the right, they'll say, oh, the fringe crazy right-wing lunatic, or the fringe left, or that crazy left that believes in conspiracy theories, even though this is, we're showing you this is not a conspiracy theory, this is literally happening right now. And they get to discount those groups as outsiders, when in reality, the vast majority of Americans know there's something wrong. They just don't know exactly what is happening, right? And so that's by design. And I don't think I think less and less people are buying the whole theater of like Republican and Democrat situation. I think that's why you see increasingly less people voting or caring about all of this stuff.
There was somebody on the morning show today, or from the tweeters, that was kind of, "You're a right winger. I don't want to listen to right wingers in the morning." Blah blah blah. You know, he really nice. He had his mask on and his profile picture and everything, fam. And then I was like, well, you know, wow, holy cow, man. Like, you know, we've been agreeing a lot with a lot of populist right people too, as they've been anti-establishment when it comes to civil liberties, situation with the boop boop, J6, the election and stuff like that. But as soon as I hear their rhetoric when it comes to, you know, the Ukraine situation, they remind me of why I first registered as a Democrat during the Iraq war. Not to say I am a Democrat, but when I registered to vote, because I said there was no way I'm going to stand with these neocons whatsoever, and they are just back out again too as well. So it's just
Yeah.
it's crazy all in all, man.
Yeah, the neocons are neocons. And they're going to be neocons, and they're going to be that first and foremost. For me, it has to be, you have to be anti-war. You have to be an anti-imperialist for me to be able to even work with you, because otherwise we're just working in two completely different extremes, right? Like you want war, you think one entity serves to dictate the rest of the world, and you want freedoms for you, and when they're infringed upon you, then you get mad, but when they're infringed on somebody else, you don't care. So it's like, okay, well, that's not going to work. And I think the people that are like that are hypocrites, just like the people from the left who are right on this issue, but completely were so wrong on the COVID issue and are ignoring it. They're not even admitting to the fact that they were wrong. They're not going to admit to it. They're going to continue freaking out about the next thing and the next thing. But it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, it's all part of the same mechanism. It's coming from the same people. So you cannot pick and choose which narrative you make exceptions to. It's all part of the same thing. And I think we're going to find collaborations. We're going to find camaraderie with people who see both, right? Whatever part of the spectrum they fall in, if they see both and they're like, okay, we see what's going on here, we see these connections. And those are the people that I think we can work with. And I think more and more people, the danger, what they're afraid of is that more and more people like us get this message across, and they're able to see those connections, and people are able to say, okay, this is wrong and we need to stop this. That's why they censor the hell out of us. That's why they censor the hell out of anybody that is able to make those connections. That's why they have to call you a right winger, because if you are able to convince somebody on the right that this is wrong, and we're able to talk to them, right, and we're able to get them on our side, if there are who are watching the show, and maybe they start understanding the foreign policy aspect as to why we're anti-war, that's far more dangerous than, you know, having a bunch of shitlib progressives talking about, you know, Bernie being a socialist and AOC being a democratic socialist and talking about things that are never going to happen, because there's no real pathway to that, because they know that they're allowing these people to talk about that because they're not a threat. So this next video, fam, I think it's going to piss you off or it's going to make you laugh, or both. So this is Anthony Blinken talking about Putin and talking about Russia, but just replace the word Russia with the United States, and then you'll see how based Blinken really is.
Again today, we have a strong sense of what Russia could do next.
More volume on.
We believe that Moscow may be setting the stage to use a chemical weapon and then falsely blame Ukraine to justify escalating its attacks on the Ukrainian people. Manufacturing events and creating false narratives of genocide to justify greater use of military force is a tactic that Russia has used before, including in Georgia. We believe Russia will bring its mercenaries from private military groups and foreign countries to Ukraine. President Putin acknowledged as much over the weekend when he authorized the recruitment of additional forces from the Middle East and elsewhere. Another indication that his war effort is not going as he hoped it would. They're also likely to systematically kidnap local officials and replace them with puppets. Again, this has already begun.
Fam, I didn't know if I wanted to laugh or cry on that. You were absolutely right. Like, the local puppets, it's already been done. Yeah, like what you did in 2014.
2014, like how many other times, fam? Like how
everywhere.
Many times have you done? Let's see. Let's go back to the attempt in Venezuela, the attempt of the success in Bolivia. I mean, we can continue on and on and on.
Iran, 1953.
Yes. I mean, this is like, it's hilarious. It's how you have to be a psychopath to say this with a straight face. You have to be. I don't see any way around how you aren't a psychopath, because every time he said Russia, the United States should have been exactly what he said, and that would have been truthful. Mercenaries, the United States is literally sent mercenaries everywhere. They have mercenaries everywhere. And now NATO, of course, is asking for volunteers, mercenaries, to go there and fight, you know, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of these mercenaries that are coming in have some nationalist tendencies, that they support these type of Nazi nationalist tendencies. So, let's get all the people that we were, you know, the few people that we like fear mongering about in the United States, right? Let's get them to go fight for Ukraine. Now we're not just going to vilify them. Now we're just going to call to them so they can go fight our crazy wars. And they've supported, of course, and created radical extremists, the United States government has, for a long time. And so this is nothing new, but it's really crazy when you hear this man say it with a straight face. Russia did this, Russia and the Russians and the Russians. No, it's the United States that has continuously done this. And what they're doing is really disgusting. We're going to show you what the United States is supporting, as we have been on the show for weeks now since this conflict began. This is a video that was sent to me, and this is a group of Ukrainians telling this reporter that the Azov battalion group is preventing people from leaving and is executing people who are trying to escape. This is something that we have been told from numerous people from the region who are on the ground, and also we've seen numerous times that they are using these civilians as shields. There is a couple of good articles now from the Gray Zone. I think Alex Rubinstein did one and Max Blumenthal did one, talks a little bit about some of this, but like this has been happening for a while now. And so let's just watch this video because it's pretty gross.
Накрытые, все. А вот в частный сектор я видел, хоронят там, где живут, там и хоронят.
Украинские военные как-то помогали вам, давали зеленый коридор?
Вообще никто ничего не давал, никаких коридоров. Азов, сука, выезжали люди, Азов, блядь, расстреливал пидораса, сука. сука. Что сделал? Расстреливал колонны, блядь, мирных, нахуй, пытались выезжать на Володарск, расстреливали автобусы, блядь.
So, just, pretty much reiterates what we've been saying and what's been happening. And this is, of course, things you don't see in the mainstream media at all. You're not going to see that. It ruins their narrative that the Ukrainians are the good guys. So another video. This is a video of the Azov members in a house where they have all of these people on the ground as they play classical music. It's very eerie video, but you guys can go ahead and watch it.
Is the volume up?
So you guys saw the people on the floor. You guys saw how they were just, occupying this space. Now, this is a video thread, right? I wanted to show this video thread of abuse. And I wanted to just scroll through it, Oz, if you can, because there's so many videos and you guys should go check this thread out. This is a thread by You Black Soul, Juan Sin Miedo, Juan Sin Medio, You Black Soul. And the first part says hundreds of civilians have been punished for diverse reasons in Ukraine by paramilitary groups and the National Guard. Strong footage, tortures, abuses, humiliation, even of kids and girls. So it's a video thread. Like I said, you guys should check it out. And are you on it? Great. Okay. So if you just scroll down and the next one, if as you scroll down, of course, the videos should be playing. I don't know if they're not. I don't know why they're not for you, but there is just videos of people being like hit in the back, in their in their rear, and for whatever reason, right? Whether it's Russian sympathy, looting, people searching for food, they're tying them up to the poles, they're leaving them in the cold. They're this is like he mentions, this is a violation of the Human Rights Convention. Yeah. These are videos that are hard to watch.
Oz, go to the one where they're on the poles, please, and let's get that one in big.
Which one? That one?
Right there.
Yeah.
If you can get that widescreen real quick and show people what's going on with, I was just kind of confused of what was going on. Like you're saying this is the militia of the Ukrainians telling the citizens they can't leave, and if they try to leave or do something wrong, they're tying them to
This is just abuse. This is just documented abuse by the Ukrainian forces against people, right? For whatever reason. So whether they express Russian sympathy, whether they express some sort of anything, they do something wrong, if they do any sort of thing that they find that they don't like. So a lot of people on the ground have described these people as just like a lot like similar to the Gestapo, just like they enjoy torturing these people. They enjoy seeing them suffer. This is where the money that these morons are giving to in Ukraine goes to. This is where the money is going to support this sort of treatment. These people have been enduring this treatment for a long time. If they see that you're pro-Russian in any way, they publicly humiliate you. And then people start coming in, like random people pass by while you're tied to the pole. They continue humiliating you. They continue hitting you. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And this is happening, of course, all over. And it's the Ukrainian forces that are doing this. It's not the Russian forces. I mean, this seems more to me like something that is totalitarian. This, in fact, it has been compared to what Al-Qaeda has done, what these radical extremists did in West Asia, right? And of course, the United States continuously lends support via weapons, via politics to these groups of people. And they don't talk about this. They don't show that this is happening. And there's just so much of happening. And a lot of these people, they're saying, are the neo-Nazi factions that are doing this. And we've seen record videos, right? Recorded videos of World War II of how the Gestapo acted. And so there's a lot of comparison to the Gestapo, to the radical actual jihadists of that of West Asia. And so, yeah, so just wanted to show you guys, make sure to take a look. There's so many videos. It doesn't matter if they're women, children, it's men, it's women, it's everybody. And yeah, this is, I mean, I just have not seen any of this in mainstream media whatsoever at all. And this is
disgusting. It's disturbing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. And thank you to Juan Cimedo for putting it out there. And I'm
how
surprised
is this not taken down already?
Oh, it got taken down?
How is it not taken down?
Oh, I don't know. But I hope it does it, because people need to see it. He said if it got taken down, he would post them back up. So yeah, I really wanted to show that. And I know it was disturbing, but people need to go and check that out, all the videos. This next video, fam, is the last video of this section. This is a video that Dan Cohen meticulously posted. He was the first one to post this thread. It's a very important thread because it's really showing how the head of the Ukrainian military medical services, Gennady Druzenko, boasted on the Ukrainian 24 channel that he gave strict orders to castrate all the wounded Russians because they are cockroaches, not humans. Not all fascists wear swastikas or wolf's angels. So here is the video, and it's translated. And let's go ahead and play the video. But again, I just wanted to show who really are, you know, the people abusing the civilians.
Горит путинская техника хорошо. Трупы путиноидов смердят, но как бы опять-таки становятся безвредными. Я своим врачам дал указание, всегда я был большим гуманистом и говорил, что как только человек пораненный, он уже не враг, а пациент. Но теперь очень жесткое указание всем мужчинам кастрировать, потому что это тараканы, а не люди. И поверьте, все врачи, которые всю жизнь спасали пациентов, русские тут будут умирать в большом количестве. Те, кто идет, будет вспоминать кошмар украинской земли, как немцы вспоминали Сталинград.
И все они будут привлечены к ответственности, Геннадий, да? Давайте...
So I'm just gonna point out to something else he said too. This guy Druzenko is closely tied to the U.S. government. He had stints at the USAID / Mnemonics and the Wilson Center. So if you go to his Facebook, I think he has, you guys can see his resume. He worked at the USAID. He has worked for the U.S. As a program coordinator at the Mnemonics International Inc., which is the USAID cutout, CIA cutout. So this is the kind of people the United States is supporting. Shouldn't surprise you after everything that happened with the pandemic. Shouldn't surprise you after every disastrous regime change war, every interventionist, every coup. But it gets worse and worse, of course, because now they're full on embracing fascists and neo-Nazis, right? They clutch their pearls at a Trump supporter here. And they talk about January 6th still ad nauseum, and how these people were Nazis and all of that. But then they go and fund real paramilitary fascists in Ukraine who are committing disgusting crimes against humanity. And they say, well, Putin is bad, so whatever. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's nuts. But, I want to digress to the Blinks. And first of all, fams, if you can call him the Blinks or the Blink, Anthony Blinken, he likes to be called that name. How effective is his lies? I mean, is it still really reaching a lot of people? I mean, there's no way to really tell this by just say, what do you think? And I'm saying, at what point do you not think that this is really starting to be like, okay, everything that this guy says is bullshit? Like, my cousin Vinny, the opening statements. I mean, How are we not at that point? Because every single time this guy opens his mouth, and I love the way these establishment Democrats, along with these establishment Republicans, keep on using this whole thing that, oh, it's classic Russian technique to throw what you think about somebody else on your opponent. No, that's what we're doing all the time. And we're still trying to weasel our way out of it every single time. Every single time Blinken opens his mouth, it's like, it's so BS. So I want your opinion, and Oz, if you want to jump in here on this too as well. How effective do you still think it is to the mainstream when Blinken tells these lies?
I mean, I think the mainstream is just a bunch of people like sucking each other off at this point. Like they really all share the same views. So they're just reaffirming this echo chamber of views that they have. But what they need to realize is there are other people that and most of the younger people don't watch mainstream media. So while they're trying to get the TikTokers and while they're trying to do this, there are independent voices everywhere that are reaching a few people and a few people and a few people. And eventually it's going to catch up to them because they're doing such a bad job in hiding it. And because also it's to the point where they can't even hide it anymore. So they kind of have to like blatantly say, oh yeah, we're supporting Ukraine, but you know, they're not all Nazis. You know, it's just a small portion of it. It went from, no, this is false to, well, there's some Nazis, but it's not that many.
A few hundred
and
Nazis.
They don't have that much power. So it's okay. So now that they openly admit they're Nazis, even people who were like initially like, oh yeah, Putin's an asshole or whatever, and his invasion was illegal, they're still like, but this is a very big problem here, you know? And I think it's actually, we're seeing the fall of it. We're seeing the decrease of it, which is why they're ramping up their censorship. I don't think they're going to get away with this, honestly, in the long run. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I think actually what we're seeing is an exposure of them. And you can tell because they're trying so hard to keep this narrative together. Same thing with the COVID narrative, right? They got crazy when they were losing hold of that narrative. And more voices that are speaking out. We kind of had a conversation about this past yesterday when you said I was viewed as pretty radical, right? And I'm like, okay, well, to me, if you look at the people that are speaking out the truth, those voices are getting stronger. Those voices are becoming louder. Take, for example, the comedian Russell Brand. How they tried to smear him. And so he's come back and he's getting louder and louder. Now he's a celebrity with a big platform, but people like that and the things they're saying in the mainstream, because he's more on the mainstream, but he's talking about the Great Reset. He's talking about certain things that might have not reached a younger audience, that might have not reached other people that, you know, that don't listen to us or aren't in the world of politics. And I think that is saying, where is he getting that information from? Oh, he must be watching somebody else. And all of that information is kind of trickling everywhere. And eventually it's getting out. And so people are going to start seeing that information, plus also physically and realistically what's happening in their lives, at the gas pump, in food prices and all of that. And I think that together is going to signal some sort of shift. I don't know how big it'll be, but I think their days are numbered in terms of the facade of this, you know, this prison that they put everybody in, where they think, oh, everybody's free, everybody's great.
Yeah.
Once people feel it in their pockets, that's when.
I just wish that, you know, it would be death, destruction, coups, regime change, starvation, you know, just extreme impoverished reasons that would wake up American people to say, hey, let's stop doing this. Instead, it's gas prices for them to go, wait a second now, hold on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, there's thousands of people are killed over here, you know, in Afghanistan with these sanctions and stuff. The sanctions in Afghanistan are killing more children than the bombs did. But we don't give a shit, but when we have to pay higher gas, whoa now. Let's take it easy over here. Invasion where? No.
You're right. But hello, it's like raising a child. The United States is a child that has been coddled, that has been completely self-centered. You know, they don't know where Ukraine is on a map. They don't know anything. They don't care because they haven't had to care. And I think I said it the other day, I think on a tweet, I said, I think the United States people are going to start feeling a fraction, at least, of what other people have been experiencing for decades abroad. And it's going to be bad because they're not used to it. You know, when you think about a fall of anything, poor people have been used to surviving. Poor people have been used to, but there's a lot of people in the United States that don't understand what poverty is. They have no idea that it's not just, you know, it's literally not having running water, not having electricity, not having a toilet. Like it's those things that if you go to other countries, if you see how people live, you see that. But if you don't, you have no idea. You're like, oh shit, the gas prices, they're going to cost me. And it's very selfish, but I think unfortunately that is the way to get people to pay attention. And I think, like I said, it's going to get bad before it gets better.
Well, September 11th, you know, that's back in the days. That's something that really shook people right now. Yeah. They were able to use it to go and invade other countries and set the whole Middle East on fire. We understand that. But that's what true American imperialism, American privilege is, fam, is the fact that we don't have to worry about a 9/11 happening every day. In other countries, there's a 9/11 happening every single day, mainly because of Western bombs and whatnot. So until we get to that point, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if it will really shake people up, because at the end of the day, they can still order fast food. They can still get Domino's. They can still get Spotify, Netflix, all that stuff. You know, the internet sucks, but they have internet, whatnot, and they don't have to worry about, you know, bombs dropping over their heads. So, I mean, that's the true privilege we're talking about. I really hope that we'll wake things up, because right now we're already past the point of no return. If things can get really hairy over here, it can become Alex Jones, I will eat my neighbor time. If, you know, if we don't stop this downward, you know, spiral going right now, it's just getting so far out of hand. And it's like I said before, it really is not representative of the American people. The American people are asleep at the wheel. Our leaders are misleading and misguiding this country into some very serious dark times. If India and Pakistan are talking together because of what the United States actions are, then we got some serious problems going on, because the rest of the world is going to leave us, going to say, we don't need you anymore, pal. Bye-bye. And then we're done, because we don't make anything over here. We don't wipe our own ass. You know what I'm saying? And we're so dependent on cheap labor, you know, cheap goods from other countries. Those days will be over, and it's going to just be survival of the fittest. So all you people out there watching the Convo Couch, remember, I can cook. Thank you. By the way, Super Ray contribution from Lucky Burrito A&M says, Leo wants you to know he loves you, fam.
And we love Leo. And you too, Lucky.
By the way, fam, 344 people watching on the YouTubes. We have 104 watching on the Rock Fins. Thank you to everybody for the Super Ray contribution. Thank you to all the people who renewed their subscription with us. If you can go ahead and do that and you can afford to do it, please do so. It's just so humbling, and it's so awesome that you folks have really put us into play and been giving us the ability to do what we love to do, and that's give you the real truth. Get out there on the ground, get in the studio, and do this hard work for you guys. You guys really propel the Convo Couch and everything we do, and I can't thank you enough for that. So thank you that. All the Patreons as well. You guys are great. Benny Massimino, he left a little Scott fam on the PayPal. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. All the avenues, please take advantage. If you can help independent media out, help us out, and we'll keep bringing you the news, fam.
So, fams, this next section, we're going to start on YouTube, but then we're going to switch to Rockfin only, because we're going to be talking about the World Health Organization's shift or demand towards a national biomedical treaty. This is a subject I've been wanting to talk about, and I'm glad Pasta jumped on this section, because this is something that's extremely important, because there's a lot happening right now silently while the Ukraine Russia situation is going on. So as we are distracted, fams, things are going on. We've talked about it when it comes to a lot of the boop protocols. They are not gone away. They have only been simply suspended, and they can be brought back at any time. The national emergency has been extended for a year, so that's going on. Congress hasn't met for their joint session the way they're supposed to every 6 months. And the public health emergency, which gets renewed every 90 days, will probably get renewed again. And we're hearing all this chirping around. In fact, fam, you know, I didn't know if I told you, I'm a newspaper guy now.
The U.S. COVID infections likely to increase again, says Fauci. Let me say it like Fauci. Yes, U.S. COVID infections are likely to increase again, fam. That was a little Bernie there too, but they still got that New York thing going. And that's what's really going on. We've talked about China just reported their first death in a long time. Samoa had one case, fam, a lady leaving the country, getting on a plane at the airport. One case, and they locked it down in Samoa. So there's a lot of scares coming back. They talked about the Delta Cron, the new variant that's been spotted in the United States. These are all facts. I'm just quoting the papers, whatnot. And one thing that's been going on behind the scenes is the WHO wants to implement this treaty, this biomedical treaty. Some people call it a fascist biomedical treaty. Let's take a look at it. Go to slide 38 there, Oslin. Key takeaways. The World Health Organization, the WHO, and not the group, the WHO, is attempting a power grab. It is seeking to greatly expand its ability to control rather than merely advise the entire world's response to the next pandemic far beyond its current limit legal authority. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is from James Rogoski. He put this beautiful thing together. He gave me a lot of videos to watch, a lot of articles to read, and he compiled them all together. So go to his Substack and check it out. The WHO seeks authoritarian, one-size-fits-all, One Health approach to world health that is controlled by them and them alone. In other words, fam, if they implement this treaty, fam, it's going to supersede our laws, whatnot. And that's if the United States agrees to this treaty. The WHO is also seeking to greatly expand its financial resources and yearly budget. Just like I told you, fam, we've given all this money, right? The CARES Act and whatnot. They're funneling all this money to all the big pharma companies. In the budget that's supposed to come out in a couple of days, it is expected that there'll be money in there for Ukraine and there'll be money in there for more COVID protocols. And not for me and you, fam, not for the little people out there, ladies and gentlemen, but for the big boys, the big pharmaceutical companies. They're going to get their shot old, fam, while we're left out in the cold. Slide 39. The United States cannot avoid this problem by simply leaving the World Health Organization, because if the WHO enacts such a treaty without the U.S., our rights and freedoms to travel around the world will be limited by countries that do participate, fam. So a lot of people think that if we opt out, you know, some of those patriots out there that think that Donald Trump is coming back, that they're going to get rid of Joe Biden and impeach Kamala Harris, and this is a true thing said by Roger Stone, that we can just opt out, fam. We'll opt out and we'll let China do what they want to do, but we won't be able to travel, fam, right? You know what I'm saying? Because other countries will be involved. We must actively prevent these treaty negotiations from infringing upon the rights and freedoms of the entire world by default. The negotiations towards this treaty are controlled by bureaucrats, politicians, lawyers, public health officials, non-government organizations, and pharmaceutical representatives who will be determining the future of the world's health. Fam, does that surprise you? Who's making these decisions over here?
No, not at all. I mean, this is right in line with everything.
The input, and this is going to slide number 40, the input of independent-minded doctors, nurses, scientists, and health professionals who actually saved millions of humans of lives is being completely ignored. So, fam, these are the same doctors we talked about. These are the same people, like the Pierre Coreys, like the Malones, the McCulloughs, all these guys, Dr. Urzo, you know what I'm saying? All these guys are being ignored here and stuff like that. They're screaming and stuff. And this is why I think on April the 10th, when it comes to defeat the mandates, whatnot, we're going to see a lot of talk about this treaty and a lot of other things going on. For members of the WHO and their internal states and provinces, this legally binding agreement would override their individual constitutions and pandemic response strategies. In other words, fam, they were a little bit upset last time, the ruling class. There were too many pockets in the United States that were saying no, and counties and cities that didn't want to play ball, that went with their own rules, that weren't doing what like Governor Newsom and the rest of the LA cronies were doing and stuff there by locking things down, requiring vaccination proof, masking up and stuff. And they still want to mask up our children in California, fam. So, I mean, that's what's going on over here. As an international treaty, the WHO Pandemic Pact would be legally binding above the Constitution of the United States, and thus it would infringe upon our rights and limit our freedoms, fam. It would pretty much trump. It's like the Trump card saying, oh, the Constitution, sorry, we have a treaty here. That means we're going to have lockdowns because this is what the WHO says. And we signed the treaty. Here we go. Initial talks will involve delegates from 6 countries representing the world's main regions, co-chairs in South Africa and the Netherlands, Brazil, Japan, Egypt, and Thailand, fam. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Go to James Rogoski's Substack and read it. It's like a fee article, It's like half a book. And it's got so much information there, fam. So far, your thoughts on the fact that they can come up with a world treaty that would trump all our laws over here. And in other words, it would just be one governing body, a medical fascist body governing of what to do and how we would do things during a pandemic.
Yeah, so they're also going to thinking about sanctioning countries that don't agree to this. So that is a very big deal to me, because that means that there's going to be some sort of pushback by certain countries, and we're going to be seeing who those countries are. But this is part of the whole Great Reset. This is part of it. This is part of the what we're seeing here is the attempt to use and weaponize the pandemic for its real purpose, which is now to really have some sort of control over the coming and going of people, to have over control over people in general, what they're doing, who they're doing it with, and to maintain a certain order, a certain surveillance state that is not just a surveillance state of the West, but it's a global type of surveillance state. And there are, of course, a lot of players that have a surveillance state, including China. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out and who really plays ball. And the guy who said this was Tedros, and the German health minister. I think the name is Jens Spahn. They said that this was that these sanctions were going to happen for countries that didn't share their pandemic information, right? And I think that is like we're going to force some countries to perhaps try to cooperate, even if they don't want to cooperate. And I think this is Europe is going to play a big role in this, of course, and NATO countries. And I don't know. It remains to be seen with what China is going to do. But this is a really big deal, and I think this is like something that we have to keep our eyes on, because this is also part of the crypto stuff, right? Like the cryptocurrency, eyes on that. Imagine the control over this with this treaty is going to include financials. It's going to include the ability to spy on how much crypto you have, to control how much crypto you have. If you are somebody that is operating against the status quo, perhaps you might have your assets frozen. Guess what? They've already done that in Canada, and they're going to continue to do it. Yeah. And so I think this is all part of all of that. And the next thing is, of course, the central bank digital currency that's happening, which is scary times.
And I want to remind people, it's just not like, they can stretch the definition of what a pandemic is, right? It could be a pandemic of heart attacks. It could be a pandemic of the flu, right? They can use this and stretch it once again to just lock it down and shut it down. I think we should show this little quick timeline, fam, and then just get on the Rockfin only, because there's a few things I want to say and I don't want to get taken down. So let's take a look at this quick timeline on slide 41. By August 1st, 2022, that's right around the corner, the intergovernmental negotiating body will meet to discuss progress on a working draft for an international instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. By 2023, the negotiating body will deliver a progress report to the 76th World Health Assembly. And by May 2024, the proposed instrument will be presented for adoption by the 77th World Health Assembly. So you can see everything that's happened in the past couple of years, fam, has led to this, has led to an avenue right now, which they're going to continue to go forth with, right? This time of acceleration and whatnot. And by 2024, if we don't stop this, what's going to happen? We're going to have a one body World Health Organization deciding what to do, what the laws are, what the rules are, what we can do and what we cannot do during a pandemic.
And along with that body, we're going to have a central digital currency. We're going to have a digital ID wallet that has all this information and that's tied to everything about you. And that is going to be dependent on what you do, what you can and cannot do, what jobs you can and cannot have, where you can and cannot move to. So pay really close attention to what countries are going to be opting out of this, because those are the countries you kind of want to be in, or that you kind of want to start, I don't know, figuring out like what, because this is going to happen unless there's some sort of uprising. And right now with having people on the right, or on the whole anti-mandate, quote unquote vax people talking about this, it's going to really make it some sort of conspiracy type of label to it, which is going to, of course, inadvertently get it censored. It's just gonna get a lot of people to say, oh, this is nothing. This is just, global relations. It's just a treaty like it's just like another creation like NATO and like an alliance of sorts. What could go wrong? Like, It's just, they're just gonna dismiss it as you're making something out of nothing. Of course, those of us who have been right from the start about literally every conflict that's been happening in every PSYOP are telling you that this is a major deal. So guys, we are going to go to Rockfin only, right, Pasta?
Yes, we are. In 5. In 4, it's the time to get on over there. The Convo Couch will be on Rockfin. In 3, we love you all. We appreciate you all. In 2, and in 1, peace
Come
out,
over to
YouTube.
Rockfin. Is it on the YouTube?
Yes.
Is the link on the YouTube? Okay.
Is it?